Okay, so this is my naked face with a little bit of CC cream on it because I forgot that I was gonna do this, so I just remembered and decided to stop where I was so I could film a little video for you. Okay, so first thing you want to do is wash your face completely and get all your makeup off or whatever, like even in the morning if you're doing your makeup then. Make sure that your face is totally clean. And then once it is, grab some sort of like something that's gonna make your face wet again. So that for me, I usually use this Thayer's toner that has rose water in it because it is really hydrating, but it also has antibacterial properties, so it's good for people with acne. So I put that in a little MAC tiny bottle and just spray it all over my face. And then I take moisturizer. I use this one. It's Calm from Wildcraft. It's a local business in Toronto, and I ordered it online during this pandemic to support local businesses. So, once you have your face washed, you put something on that's gonna kind of make your face wet so it absorbs your moisturizer quickly. The next step, once your moisturizer is all dry, is to either use a primer, which I don't have here, so I'm not using, but you can use a primer. You really don't have to if you don't have super oily skin. So I'm not using one right now. I'm just gonna use my CC cream that I get from IT Cosmetics because it's SPF 50 and also it's like a really lightweight, full coverage foundation, so it's good for people with acne, but it's really expensive, so you can use anything at this point. For me, I usually use my fingers to warm it up, and then just for like light sort of application, just like rub it in all over my face. This stuff is like kind of magic because it's not super heavy. It's like a moisturizer. So that's what I like to use, and if your skin is dry, it's sometimes better to use things that are like kind of hydrating, more like a moisturizer just to start, so that you can build up coverage after, but you start with like a hydrated skin base. So I'm just gonna do this. And be really gentle around your eyes so you don't get wrinkles quickly because your under eye skin is the thinnest of all your skin. So if you like wash your face really hard around your under eyes, then it can actually cause a deterioration of the skin, and then over time you can see more wrinkly bits. So now that I have like this base on that sort of makes my whole skin tone the same. Oh, I just touched my throat so my voice went weird. Yeah, it makes your skin tone like all the same and stuff, and kind of brings it all together. You can still see my pimples a little bit and my scarring. So basically, I just like to use a base now. I didn't used to do this, but now I use a base that's just sort of skin sort of emulsifying so it all looks the same color, but it doesn't cover everything, because I then go in with a beauty blender kind of sponge. I get this one from Quo, so Shoppers, and it's like $8, and it's the best sponge I've ever used. So I had a beauty blender and I like this one better, and it's just like a billion times cheaper. So what I do is I put hand soap on it just to make sure that it's like basically disinfected, because I really try to make sure that I'm not putting like gross, dirty brushes or sponges on so that I don't break out more. And I clean it with like very, very hot water, and I just like rinse out all of the moisture. And I usually do this a couple times. So I usually add soap twice, rinse it out with hot water twice, that sort of thing, just to make sure that it's very clean. And all like the old makeup is kind of washed out of it. So once this thing is washed, it's gonna be damp, so it holds onto water because it's a sponge. So once it's all kind of, you know, wet and squishy, I take a concealer. This one is Born This Way concealer from Too Faced, and it's at Sephora. It's pretty expensive as well. I think it's like $40, but it works really well, and I find that it's good in combination with something like this because I use less of each, so it lasts longer, because this is sort of like that hydrating base that I put on just to make my skin all the same color and like still maintain like sort of a natural skin look. And then this I just put on spots and or like my scarring areas, and basically what it does is it forms the coverage that I need, so then I don't use a ton of foundation or a ton of concealer. It sort of like goes together. But you can also, if you don't have acne, you can just use like just a random concealer that works on your skin. Like, it doesn't need to be super high end, just something that matches your color. And if you want to get like an under eye brightness effect, like I do, I use something with a bit of a yellow tinge to it just because it sort of brightens up. I have a pink undertone, so basically what it does is it just allows my under eyes to sort of look brighter than the rest of my skin. And then what I do is I'll go over pimples, but I'll do it really lightly, and this stuff is like so good that it just works properly. So basically what you want if you don't have a ton of acne is something that either has like a bit of a more yellow tinge just to like brighten up. So I'll go in with this now. So as you can see, it's brighter than the rest of my face, and that's so that all that discoloration is sort of counteracted. So you don't necessarily want something that's the exact color of your skin when you're using concealer, because you're trying to conceal discoloration, so you need to go the opposite direction. At least that's what I found. Some people that do makeup don't agree with that, I don't know, but I like to do it that way so that I don't need to use as much. So as you can see, I just kind of go around wherever I see some spots that I want to cover. Nothing too crazy. And then first what I'll do is I'll go around my under eyes, and the reason I do that is because I like it when the concealer sinks in to my pimples, so that even when I blend it out, it still holds the color a bit. And as you can see, this under eye is really bright, so it looks like I'm awake when I'm just really lazy today and not really awake and slept until like 10:30. So I go really gently over my acne or any spots that I want to cover, just because this sponge blends it out really well, and I still want to cover them, right? Like I don't, like for these ones I sort of went a little too hard and I wiped off the concealer, so I try not to do that with the other areas. So my makeup routine is usually a lot more focused on covering acne and spots than it is about like anything else really, like contouring like that. It's mostly about getting like my skin tone right and like making everything look flat, so it's and still look like skin. So that's sort of what I focused on, just because I have skin problems. But I'll also show you like the eyes and the contour and stuff, just so you know how to do it, because that's probably what you guys are gonna focus more on with your beautiful skin. Okay, so as you can see, I look a little bit like a ghost. I was out in the sun today, so I'm like also a little bit red, but everything looks pretty covered. This one pimple I have is pretty like, actually like it pops out a lot. It's like a period pimple, so it like actually you can't really cover it that much, so that's probably about it. But the rest of my skin is pretty much the same color. You can see a little texture when I catch the right light, but that's kind of something that I kind of just deal with. So basically you just want to make sure that your skin still looks like skin, so you don't want to do any thick layers. So with the concealer and the foundation, you saw like I'll go in thin layers. I'll like dab on the places that I need to, I'll go under my eyes, and then I'll sort of blend it out gradually. But you don't want to do anything thick, because that's when you sort of end up looking cakey, or like just sort of like your skin doesn't match your body and stuff. So you just want to go on very lightly, and you want to blend out. I like a sponge the best. And then I bought this recently, and it's just like a tiny, I think it was like $25 or something from Sephora, and it's just a contour and blush palette that is basically universal. So I bought it because I like doing other people's makeup, so I just wanted something that would look good sort of on everyone. And this blush is called Orgasm, and it's supposed to be like a universal blush for basically anyone. And the contour is just a really nice deep tone. So the the problem with a lot of contours that I find is that, or bronzers, is that they're either too orange or too like gray. And so they either look like too like you have like mud on your face, or they look orange and make you look like an Oompa Loompa. So I really like this color. It's called Laguna bronzing powder, and it just sort of is the perfect color for most people from what I've tried, to kind of get like almost a beachy sun look, but also it does like shape your face because it's not too orange, so it won't make you look like super weird. So first what I do is I actually use the same brush for my blush and bronzer, just because I find it easy and like something like it's just sort of quick. So what I do is I will use like just a nice blush brush. And in order for me not to get like a super jagged line like you see with some people that do contour, I just like to do it really thick. So I don't take a lot, I take just like a little bit, it's like dusted on there, it's kind of like pushed throughout. And I like to go in just on my cheekbone, just a little bit under, like most of the brush touches under, but some of it also touches on. And that's from my hairline down. So like you can see my cheekbone line is here, and I actually just went just like right on it with a thick brush to get all of it. And the reason I started doing that instead of just under like your cheekbone is because it looks more like the sun touched your face, because the sun touches your face at the highest points. So it actually looks a bit more natural when you sort of go just right on your cheekbone with contour rather than right under it, to sort of get that like skinny effect, because none of us really need that. So you don't need to go right under. I would suggest going from your ear, the top of your ear, like right where your ear meets there, and sort of just go down like really lightly. And you can see that it adds color and it adds sort of that like sunshine look. I don't know, hopefully you can see that. But it doesn't look too stark, it doesn't look like scary or like I put on so much bronzer or anything like that. It's just sort of like light and nice. And then I go around my forehead. Kim Kardashian calls it the 3 theory, where she puts bronzer for like a 3 formation. So you start from the middle of your forehead and you do a 3. And that's sort of what she says is the nicest. I agree, I usually do it kind of like that, but I usually also go like in the middle around to make like my forehead just sort of match the rest of my skin. And then sometimes what I'll do is I'll flatten this brush just because it is a blush brush, but I only really like using one brush because I like to sort of blend as I go. So it actually helps me to use one brush. And I'll go and I'll flatten it, and then if I sort of, if I'm going out or like I do want sort of like the more chiseled look, then I'll flatten it and I will take it just like a bit more here, and then I'll blend it out really well. And as you can see, that really does like cause that sort of like edge to form. And then I just like make it fluffy again and I blend it so it doesn't look weird. And you can see the difference, right? Like, I don't know, maybe you can't. But I find that this cheek, obviously the lighting is different too, but this cheek, even just looking at my face, looks more like defined than this cheek. So again, I'll do that on this side just so I don't look weird and different on both sides of my face. And another trick with contouring that I just sort of just fucked up on that reminded me is that you don't want to go too low. So if you go too low with the contour, it makes you look like sort of like Saw. Like it makes your face look like and it looks really strange. So just stop like mid-cheek, like go to about there and stop. And then another thing I like to do is just go under my chin, so that's sort of defined a little bit, still gives it color. And then because I put that light concealer on my chin because I have some acne there, I'll just sort of dust it really lightly. I don't want to give myself a beard, so just dust it lightly. And then the last step that I think people sometimes forget about contour is going right on the tip of your nose. And that is the reason I want to do that, is just because I want that sun look. Like I like the more natural look. So what I'll do is I'll take a tiny bit of bronzer and I'll just go the tip of my nose and sort of, I'm not sure if you can see that on video, but basically what that does is it just gives you like a bit of a sunned look, and it gives you a natural sort of like chisel. It sort of makes your whole face look like it's the same color. So as you build on layers, as you can see, like I started with sort of my base that was similar to my skin tone, then I added this really light color to sort of brighten my face up, and then I'll add contour to sort of, or like bronzer, just to sort of make my skin look, despite the fact that I put all these different colors on, sort of the same color once again. Then the last step that I do with like contour and blush and everything is use my little blush guy, and I'll just go right on my cheeks. So